Hi everybody, I hope you're all well. It's quite a chilly Sunday morning here in the south of England, and yeah, the sun can't decide if it's going to stay next to clouds or behind clouds. So sorry if this keeps on going dark, but yeah, the sun can't decide what it's doing today. But then it's autumn, so I can understand. So this week I have, been working and everything, and still I'm watching the mourning and outpouring of love for the Queen on TV. I found, especially yesterday, the vigil of the grandchildren just so moving. It was incredible to watch, and that's actually something that has never been done before. The vigil of the princes, which is what the process is usually called, the ceremonial process is called, was done earlier in the week by the Queen's children, and Princess Anne is the first woman to ever take part in it. So that was groundbreaking for that. And then the grandchildren said we would like to do something too, and they did the same thing. But they did theirs yesterday, whereas the Queen's children had done that earlier on in the week. And yeah, it was incredibly moving to see them. Their ages ranged from 14 to 44. And yeah, it was just stunning. The outpouring of love has been incredible, and tomorrow when we say goodbye to her, it's going to be a very emotional day, and I know I'm going to cry my eyes out. I know it. I'm going to watch it on TV, and yeah, and it's going to be a tough day tomorrow for sure. Well, obviously, because of the Queen's funeral, it's a bank holiday. I'm not going to be working. My company has already said very, very earlier on in the week that they were going to shut on the day of the Queen's funeral. So I don't have to worry about working tomorrow, which is great. So in between all of that, I have been reading To All the Boys I Loved Before trilogy by Jenny Han. So annoyingly, I really hate it when that happens, but it happened when I got the first book. That was when the Netflix film had just been released, and I watched the next Netflix film, and it made me buy the book. Could I find a copy without the Netflix tie-in? No. So I had to buy that one as a Netflix tie-in, and then books 2 and 3 I had to buy as the original cover. So I've got this like really distorted cover. It doesn't match, and it really annoys me, but it's the way it is. So that's why the covers just don't align in this video. But I just couldn't get it any other way. So To All the Boys I Loved Before had been a very popular trilogy of books, and then when Netflix came out, it kind of went into the stratosphere, as it were, for a wider audience. Certainly I am one of those that got captured by it because of the Netflix film. So I saw the first Netflix film, and I really liked it. I loved the aesthetic of the films, which I will talk about further on in this review. But yeah, to cut a long story short, really liked the film, wanted to give the book a go, and me and my sister's bestie Sarah, hi Sarah, she had read the books and said, look, give them a go. And I read the first book just outside of my channel, just to myself. It didn't take very long for me to read, and I thought, yeah, it's not bad. I'll get the other 2 books, because we knew then that the next 2 books were being adapted to films. I was like, I'll get the next 2 books and I'll read them before the next 2 films came out. That didn't happen. I got the books, I just didn't get around to reading them. So yeah, so it has been quite a while since, actually, when did the first film come out? Actually, I should be able to see because of the edition information. Oh gosh, okay. So it looks like 2014 was when this came out. But I'm not sure if that's when the Netflix, because it's only referring to first published in 2014. Oh, this edition is 2018. So 2018 was when the first Netflix film came out. So yeah, I was going to say it definitely wasn't 2014 when the films came out, because it was a lot sooner than that. So yeah, so I kind of went into this knowing that I'd already read the first book, but I couldn't necessarily remember changes from the film, and that, and the tone and that kind of thing. So in a way I was sort of blind to it, because it'd been quite some time. But books 2 and 3 never touched, never read, didn't know what was going to happen in those books. Obviously I'd seen the films, but differences to the books, that's what I'm referring to. And yeah, well, how do I start this? The way that I would describe these books is my word that I associate with bland things. And I've used this term before on my channel, not often, but I have used it before. I have to say, these books are simply beige. They're meh. Now, to tell you, to get the gist of these books right, so the story follows a teenage girl called Lara Jean, who is half Korean and living in America. She's Korean American, and she lives with her two sisters. She's got an older sister called Margot. She is the middle child, and then there's the younger sister called Kitty. Her mother died 6 years earlier after banging her head and sustaining an injury, and sadly that killed her. And they live with their father, who's an OBGYN. So as he always comments, he's always surrounded by girls. And Lara Jean has this thing where she collects things, and she likes letters, and every boy that she has liked, she has written them a letter, like a love letter, when she knows that it's over, the crush is over or whatever. But she never sends them. She puts them in a hat box that her mother gave her as a gift, and puts them in, away in her room. Then one day, when her eldest sister Margot has moved to Scotland to study at university, she gets one of the boys who she wrote a letter to, Peter, comes up to her at school going, "Why did you write me this letter?" And she discovers all the letters are gone. And she's trying to understand what the hell is going on. Now, Peter has just broken up with Genevieve, the most popular girl in school. He's like one of the most popular boys in school, and basically kind of wants to make her jealous and get her back, as it were. So they decide to develop this plan where they are going to pretend that they're in a relationship with each other. Lara Jean will get popularity from it, and Peter will make Genevieve jealous. And they develop this contract, and the story goes on from there. Then going into the second book, one of the other boys who she wrote a letter to gets in contact with her, and it's all about this other guy. And then finally the third book covers decisions about going on in her life, going to college, what she's going to do, etc. Now, also, just so that you're aware, I wasn't aware of this until Bestie Sarah, hi Sarah again, told me that, and my sister, that originally this was just 2 books. The story was just 2 books. That was it. It was 2 books. And then fans who got really caught onto the books, basically kind of like begged and pleaded for a 3rd book. And eventually Jenny gave in, wrote a 3rd book. So the 3rd book is kind of disconnected, and in more ways than just the fact that the first 2 books clearly go together, and the fact that the first book ends with the beginning of writing a letter, and it just cuts off after the first line, and then the beginning of the second book is that letter in complete full, and then we're going straight in, literally like day after we're going the end of the first book, we're in the second book. So they're clearly connected, whereas the 3rd one, it's his own separate thing. So yeah, so you can feel the flow from books 1 to 2 very easily. Book 3 just feels completely distorted. And also about book 3 is that Lara Jean is an introverted girl. She's very much, she wants to kind of stay where she is. She's, she likes her various comforts in life. And there's this whole thing about going to college in New York, and New York is loud and, got various stuff going on. And all of a sudden, Lara Jean is like, yeah, that's my world. And it's like, I'm sorry, is this the girl who I've gone through 2 books with, who I know pretty well by now? Why? Where the hell did that come from? And so it's basically, she's just formed this part of her personality, part of her wants and needs and plans for life that has come out of nowhere for the purpose of a plot of a book. And that's just, it's so out of character, it's ridiculous. And I just go, nah, no, sorry, love, no. I'm not going to go along with that. I'm sorry, no. So let's start. I've gone straight through like to book 3 when I really should start with book 1, shouldn't I? Now, all 3 of these books have 2 things that I can't stand in books. So, and having gone from the absolute superb writing of Ink Black Heart to this trilogy meant that it was an absolute chore to get through. Absolute chore. I've really hated reading these books, but also I think I've had a weird, mourning for the Queen and busy with work and kind of heady kind of phase since finishing Ink Black Heart that I just felt really grumpy or just didn't have the want to pick up these books at all. But these 2 peeves made it even worse. First one, I know some people are going to go, what about it? But it's pet peeve of mine. I can't stand first person present tense. I cannot stand it. It's just, it irks me so much. And I feel it's my own personal comfort thing. I prefer being in the third person perspective. So constantly being in Lara Jean's head, from her perspective through the 3 books, it just kind of felt, I was just like, oh god, this is going to be painful. But one benefit I will say, because obviously she's a teenage girl and you need to understand how she sees the world and everything, it did make me understand her more as I went through the first 2 books. But then when I got to book 3, where she's doing stuff and reacting to things that are so off character, I'm like, where the hell did that come from? It makes it even more obvious that this is not like her to say or do these things. So I was just a bit like, that made it even worse. And my second pet peeve, why do authors do this? It's so frustrating, making chapters to be 2 or 3 pages long only. I endured that for 3 books. I cannot stand this, that where you've got, I actually noted a bit to do a reading. So chapter 31, so we've got that. Ooh, if I can turn the page. We've got 3 pages for that one. 3 pages, that is the absolute maximum. And this first book, how many chapters does this have? It has 72 chapters and is 421 pages. And I'm like, 72 chapters. Why does it need 72 chapters? What is the point of that? I get that this is a book for young adults. Totally understand that. Young adults can cope with chapters more than 3 pages. It irritates the hell out of me. I don't understand why authors do that. I don't. It's more common in young adult fiction, but it does happen in other genres as well. So this isn't just a pet peeve about young adult fiction, it's across the board. Okay, so yeah, I've read like the Harry Potter books, Percy Jackson books, all of those, even Roald Dahl had chapters more than 2 or 3 pages. Why are you doing that? It's not necessary. Just stop it. Sorry, that was a bit of a mini rant. But yeah, it felt just a bit like I was just going along for a ride, but it was a really quite dull and boring ride. I felt like I could completely keep up. But like how sometimes when you're watching like a TV series or a film, you could be playing completely on your phone the entire time, not paying attention and still follow along the plot. That's how I felt when I was reading these books. It was just meh. And the quality of the it's not even that great. So yeah, so if I go to that chapter 31, I'll read you a bit of it. So Kitty and I are on the front steps. She's drinking her Korean yogurt milk and I'm working on that scarf for Margot while I wait for Peter. Kitty's waiting for Daddy to come out. He's dropping her off at school today. Miss Rothschild hasn't come out yet. Maybe she's sick today, or maybe she's running even later than usual. We've got our eyes locked on her front door when a minivan drives up down the street and slows in front of the house. I squint my eyes. It's Peter Kavinsky, driving a tan minivan. He ducks his head out the window. Well, are you coming or not? Why are you driving that? Kitty calls out. Never mind that, Catherine, Peter calls back. Just get in. Kitty and I look at each other. Me too, Kitty asks. I shrug. Then I lean back and open the front door and yell out, Kitty's getting a ride with me, Daddy. Okay, he yells back. We stand up, but just then Miss Rothschild comes dashing out the house in her navy blue suit, briefcase in one hand, coffee in the other. Kitty and I look at each other gleefully. 5, 4, 3, damn it! Giggling, we hurl ourselves towards Peter's minivan. I hop into the passenger seat and Kitty climbed into the back. What were you guys laughing about? He asks. I'm about to tell him when Josh walks out the house. He stops and stares at us for a second before he waves. I wave back and Kitty hangs her head out the window and yells, Hi, Josh! What's up? Peter calls out, leaning over me. Hey, Josh says back, then gets into his car. Peter pokes me in the side and grins and puts the car in reverse. Tell me why you guys were laughing. Clicking into my seatbelt, I say, at least once a week, Miss Rothschild runs out to her car and spills hot coffee all over herself. Kitty pipes up, it's the funniest thing in the world. Peter snorts, you guys are sadistic. What's sadistic? Kitty wants to know. She puts her head between us. I push her back and say, put your seatbelt on. Peter puts the car in reverse. It means seeing other people in pain makes you happy. Oh, she repeats it to herself softly. Sadistic. Don't teach her weird stuff, I say. I like weird stuff, Kitty protests. Peter says, see, the kid likes weird stuff. Without turning around, he lifts his hand up for a high five, and Kitty leans forward and slaps it heartily. Hey, give me a sip of whatever it is you're drinking back there. It's almost gone, so you can have the rest, she says. Kitty hands it over, and Peter tips back the plastic container into his mouth. This is good, he says. It's from the Korean grocery store, Kitty tells him. They come in a pack and you can put them in the freezer, and if you pack it for lunch, it'll be icy and cold when you drink it. Sounds good to me. Lara Jean, bring me one of these tomorrow morning, will you? For services rendered. I shoot him a dirty look and Peter says, I mean the rides, geez. I'll bring you one, Peter, Kitty says. That's my girl. As long as you give me a ride to school tomorrow too, Kitty finishes, and Peter hoots. That's an entire chapter. That's an entire chapter. What was the point of that chapter? There were just things that I just felt like, oh my god, why is this book popular? And I mean, it's just okay. It's not even the actual character developments and such. Okay, some of them are interesting, but the majority of them are just not. And Lara Jean says and does some really like stupid things sometimes, like how at one point, this is like a teeny tiny spoiler, just so you're aware. But at one point, she gets really pissed off to find out that her older sister, Margot, who is 18, university age and such, had sex with her boyfriend. Why are you freaking out over that? It's not like she's 14 and having sex with her boyfriend. Lara Jean, why is that your business? Why are you going crazy? Just why? And that's when you got book 3, when she's completely like doing things and saying things that are unlike her character whatsoever. It's like, well, where did that come from as well? What? It was annoying. It was just a bit meh. It was just beige. Now, here's the thing. Netflix films. I'm going to say something that's possibly controversial. I don't know. I think the Netflix films are better than the books. There, I've said it. I have said it. Now, the Netflix films are different from the books. In the later books are more different than the films. Let me put it that way. Yeah, there's, it's pretty much the same, the first one, and there are some slight tweaks, like locations where things happen, that sort of thing. And the very, very last scene is actually the first section of the second book. So this is why the first book flows into the second book very easily, because it's literally the next day after the first book ends. So yeah. The aesthetics of those films, the cinematography, the set designs, the costumes, everything is beautiful. Absolutely love the aesthetic of those films. The way that they combine Lara Jean's Korean culture, which I love the representation of in the film, and it goes down to little things that she and her sisters wear, things that they have tied in their hair, things that they have like attached to backpacks, like badges and all this lot, that relate to their Korean culture. And in the second one, I think it's the second film. Yes, the second film. They celebrate New Year, and they wear traditional outfits, which is part of the book as well. And in the third one, they actually go to Korea for a visit, and we get to see that. So things like that, the celebration of the Korean culture is really prominent in the films, which I really like. That is also prominent in the books, but not to the same degree. It's kind of like, yes, we're Korean, these are the kind of foods that we eat and such, but it's not like a let me teach you everything about Korea. It's not, it's a part of their lifestyle and everything, and their day-to-day lives, but it's not something that Jenny spends ages and ages going over. But to actually see it in the films and everything, in the way in which they celebrate the Korean culture in the films, is really nice to see. I really, really like that. They're well written. Now, as I said, the first one doesn't have that many changes. The second one, John Ambrose, who's our guy, one of the boys who got Lesser, who turns up out of the blue, quite different from the book. But still, the second one kind of feels more teen angst kind of a film. And then the third one, like I said, because the third one, Lara Jean, is like completely different than who she usually is, and the things that she prioritizes is very different. It's very jarring, very jarring. So I really still do really like the third film. But I think I prefer the first film out of the three of them. They are very well put together, and I would, if I were to think of all the boys I loved before, maybe it's because I saw the Netflix film, the first film, before I started reading the books. I wonder if my mind was already programmed to prefer the Netflix, but I have had this before where I have watched a film of something. I've really liked that film. I've then gone to the book and realised that the film is garbage. Other way around in this one. I really feel that the books are written for an audience that is not me. Obviously, I'm a 36-year-old woman, not a 16-year-old teenager. I have, certain levels of standards and such in books, and the way in which I get to delve into that world, which these books didn't give me. But that doesn't mean that a younger audience will have the same issues as I do. This is my own personal opinion. I may hate something that you will love, or vice versa. So I now, whenever I think of this trilogy, I see the films. I will only see the films, because the books to me just didn't work. The chapter structuring, the beige story, and characters, it just, I suppose it helped to kind of distract during this crazy week and a bit of week and a half, should I say, of life following the death of the Queen. But whenever I picked up these books, it was a chore, and it shouldn't be a chore. So yeah, it was just beige. So those are my thoughts on the To All the Boys I Loved Before trilogy by Jenny Han, and it's time to ask my usual questions. Would I read these again? No. Straight off, no, not doing that. No. Would I recommend these to anyone? If I knew like a 15-year-old girl who wanted something light and fluffy to read, then I might say, yeah, you might want to try it, but I would warn that, they're just kind of fluffy stories, as it were. They haven't got too much depth to them. There is some depth to them, but not much overall, I would say. It's mediocre. Would I read any more of Jenny's works? Now, right now, no, because I can't go there. I would have to be something like, I'd have to be like recommended it by someone who knows me really well and knows that I didn't get along with this trilogy. And if they go, look, seriously, her writing has improved, or it's completely different in this book, try it out, then I would. But I wouldn't otherwise, I think. And that's the thing, it's very hard with young adult fiction, because sometimes, unless if you're going into a book or book series like this of an author that you have never read before, it's very easy to think, oh, they must write like that in all of their books, when some authors change their writing style, and you can see this for the younger audience. So I don't know if Jenny has written these books in a different style, and so I'm missing out on some really great work of hers, or if this is how she is usually. But if this is how she is usually, I'm not interested. If she, as I said, if a really good friend told me, look, she's got a completely different writing style, I think that you'll respond more to this, check it out, then I would. So so those are my thoughts on the To All the Boys I Loved Before trilogy. Have you read this book? I want to know what you think. Leave me a comment in the comments below. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. entirely up to you decide. And I will be back to announce my next 5 reads, picked from the combination of my Catherine Cookson book collection I've gotten this year, and of course from my jar randomness. So I will see you guys then. Bye.